Gail, this is a pretty ambitious take. It looks like 100,000 jobs you're looking to create over the next 10 years. How did this come about, and where this was? What were the origins of the idea?
The origins of the idea were sort of moving around for quite a while, almost a year ago, when I think companies began to really realize that the issues of getting the right talent into their companies and making sure that that was a diverse talent has really come to the forefront. And as they came together, I think there's some leading companies, probably 12 or 13, who sort of stepped out first, IBM being one of them. But really it was the understanding that, particularly in New York City, that coming together as a partnership would be able to scale something that really had an impact in a long-term way on New York City and on the viability and strength of the companies that are part of the coalition.
Hey, Ginni, IBM has been in New York for over 100 years. It's been based in New York. How do you come at this, and what's your hope?
Well, Becky, as you know, this is a topic that we have focused on a long time. I think I've been on the show many times, and this has all been about making this digital era an inclusive era, and that there's large underserved parts of the community that are not part of this economic equation. And so what this is, in my mind, really all about, very clearly, is economic opportunity. It is the only way to solve things like racial justice or equality. And so this is, in my mind, one way that the private sector can come together, and at this scale, it really begins to be a movement for economic opportunity. And our background, as you know, on this is started with many efforts like PTech, which involves, by the way, CUNY and other companies on this list, which has been a way to have 6-year high schools that now have 150,000 students coming through them. And so that'll contribute to this effort, which is 100,000 employees over 10 years across the 5 boroughs of New York City.
Hey, Ginni, I know at IBM you focused on this for a long time. You called them new-collar jobs. What is that exactly? And can you give a couple of examples of where you would put someone, where you would place them within the organization?
Yes, because I think this will be true across all these companies. We'd come up with the name New Collar because we wanted to come up with a positive way to describe a new pathway into all of our companies that did not necessarily require a 4-year degree to get started. And in fact, that is how we can bring and begin to bring many of these people into our companies. And so as an example, cyber specialists, software engineers. You can take a look at cloud specialists. I met a young lady just this week, Emmy Banks. Here's an example. She was in the Army for a good number of years, 17, 18 years, teaching 3rd and 4th grade. Now she is a cyber specialist. Or you're a young person coming out of a 6-year high school with a community college, and you are now becoming, we've had baristas, nurses, you name it, are becoming any one of those tech professions. And Becky, this applies to all the companies, and it isn't just tech jobs. I think Gail can talk about, we're going to focus on healthcare. There's absolutely a healthcare need in this city. There's a technology need in this city, and there's a business services need in New York City.
Hey, Gail, how do you find the people who can be placed in these jobs? What have you learned so far, and how do you ramp that up?
Well, the amazing thing, I think, is the partnership, that it is both the businesses and the public education system in New York City, both the City University of New York and the New York Department of Education, that are coming together to educate and to frame, to make sure that the 21st century skills are a normal part of a student's interaction with all of their educational experiences. Finding the people is not hard. There are almost 200,000 people who go to the City University of New York. What has been missing is this link between the business and the educational system. And what we hope to do is really make that system less dysfunctional, less fragmented, and really smooth a path, not just so that people whose parents were professionals, but for some of the kids that I have seen when I was president at LaGuardia Community College, individuals who had never been in an office building, students who had never actually been in Manhattan and they lived in Queens or the Bronx. Part of it is reaching out and making sure that there's a smooth pathway and that we're effective in connecting over a scale. And I think what's most impressive to me is that this is not a 1-year focus. This is a 10-year focus. These companies have come together for the long term. And I think the partnership and the scale and the long-term prospects are really pretty extraordinary in reaching the individuals that Ginni was just talking about, the people who have been underserved in New York, the pockets where the benefit of these thriving companies has not been fully felt, and including them in the companies so that in 20 years, maybe one of these students will take Ginni's place.